Okay, greetings and peace, everyone. My name is Neo, and I'm here to share some info with the people. And this is something that I have been wanting to share for a while, but I wanted to make sure that I have the information, the basic and major information to get across to you all. And just recently, Spirit came through and said, go ahead and create a video explaining this. Now, this is titled, this video right here, which is audio, is titled Human Trap. And I'm doing audio right now because sometimes I'm going to do things. Sometimes I have ideas that I want to do on a spirit of moment thing, and I don't have time to get to my laptop. And sometimes I just feel more comfortable just grabbing my phone and just recording whatever it is that I want to record, and then go ahead and get it off into the YouTube world. So that's what I'm doing right now. So every so often you'll see me do videos where it's just audio only, just like I did a lot of my relationship lectures only. So what we're going to go ahead and do here now is speak to you about the human trap. I already spoke to you about the family trap in one of my other two videos. I have two of them, the family trap 1 and family trap 2. And that family trap is a part of this human trap. So take that, go back and look at that if you haven't already looked at that video, and then you'll get more information about the family trap. But this one, I'm going to go through briefly about what the human trap is overall. But as far as the family trap, that's an extra information regarding the human trap. So you can go ahead and check that out for more information. So I'm going to go through this briefly. And let me see, what else do I want to explain? And this information comes from me analyzing this whole human life as much as possible after I have awakened as much as possible spiritually. So I'm a lot more spiritually conscious than I ever have been before. And I'm still raising my spiritual consciousness till this day, every single moment. And I have released a lot of my human desires and detached from a lot of the human attachments that we are trained to be attached to, that also distracts us from rising spiritually to get to our higher self so that we can get out of this human trap. So now that I have been doing that for a while, I have been also analyzing this human world a lot more than the average person, because the average person has been programmed to be obsessed and love this human world, this physical world, and to be obsessed with the economics and getting rich. When actuality, you are not supposed to be getting too obsessed with this physical realm, because it keeps you from doing what you're supposed to be doing, and also you're also getting, what I'm going to say, the average person is being used as an energy source, just like Morpheus told Neo in the first Matrix that humans have been used and turned into this, and he had a battery in his hand, and that is symbolizing energy. So a person's energy, the average person's energy, is being used daily. And from the time that you are born into this physical realm from the spirit side, and you come into this physical realm, into a baby's body, as a baby, that is one of the first times where we all are equal. That is literally when we're all equal, because everybody, when you are a baby, you already know that you are dependent on the external world and the external people. your mother, your father, your caretaker, your sisters, whatever else. You are literally a retarded individual. And no, I'm not talking about the Down syndrome people, so I'm not downing them, but you got to really look at it how it is. Babies are retarded. They can't walk. Well, when you come into this realm, you can't walk when you're a baby. You can barely crawl. The only thing that you can really communicate yourself verbally is the Google gaga 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 and all of that crap until you develop into a higher human being and until you wake up and remember who you are. But when you come into this realm, you got this amnesia that goes over you as far as when you're a baby. And that is a fucking disadvantage. Is not cool. And people think that happens just because it happens. But no, this created world is a fucking trap to keep the souls, the higher souls, from being in power as we supposed to be in power as so-called gods, for the sake of human terminology. I'll say, for the sake of human terminology, I'll use that. Make sure the shit is still recording. All right, yeah. All right, for the sake of people knowing that. But as souls, we that's not even a term to actually use for us higher souls, chaos beings. I like the way Bobby Hemmett puts it, chaos beings. So when you come from a higher realm, you coming into this lower crap, the first disadvantage is being a fucking baby. So that's like that's like Superman being able to being able to fly. He can jump buildings and shit like that. But then he being put into a wheelchair. He's being limited down to a wheelchair. That's what it's like being a god on a higher being, as a higher being coming into this fucking human world as a baby. A baby is a wheelchair. Is a wheelchair coming from a higher status. And I came to this conclusion when I was sitting down in the wind, looking out the window in the restaurant area of my building here. And I've learned within my 3 years, I've learned so much sitting there in a meditative state, looking out the window for 3 years, off and on, more than a lot of people have learned throughout their whole lifetime. And that's one of the reasons why I am extremely proud and comfortable telling people that I don't have a job, because that job is a major distraction to most people. And that is one of the things that this society does, is it creates as many things as possible to keep people distracted from having spiritual epiphanies. And whenever a person is filled with 40 hours or more work time, that keeps them away from sleep time, which is dream time. You got to get that deep regenerative sleep to regenerate your whole body, and also to get into the dream world, which is closer to your higher spiritual self. So sleep deprivation is the goal of the societies. So that's why they keep giving certain people so many hours of work. Then they encourage people to decrease their water intake, and the water is necessary, especially for us melanated beings, to get the melanin to go throughout our bodies, to help us to rise and stay on a higher spiritual level, so that we can perceive things on higher spiritual levels. So that's another thing that work does. It depletes people's energies working at these jobs over and over again, especially the jobs that they know that they don't like going to. So once the spirit told me to stop working at these jobs, I did it. That's when I'm able to perceive so much more spiritually and have more spiritual epiphanies, so that this allows me to go to outside to the edge of the physical illusions and start thinking outside of the limitations, so that I can learn what's really going on versus being in the middle of these illusions that most people have been programmed to believe in and then just settle for it. So it's actually a joy for me now to not have to go to these workplaces of employment, waste my energy just to get money and then end up coming home tired. Because I remember when I was working at Enterprise, that was one of my previous jobs recently. And when I would come home, I would be tired. And it was one time I was drained as fuck. And it's them jobs, they drain you. But anyway, so the first trap is that fucking baby. So you got to depend on everybody when you do that. When you come in as a baby, that's not cool. So I'm sitting there thinking like, damn, that's fucked up. So when you come in here, you fucked up as a baby and you dependent on everybody, and especially if you have ignorant parents, spiritually unconscious and very immature parents. And a lot of people have had those parents and or caretakers who are on that level. And you'll get lucky. There are very few people who get lucky who have very mature, strong-minded parents or caretakers, because caretakers can be anybody from your sister that you grew up with who raised you, your brother, your cousin, your foster parent, anybody like that. Or you can call you if it's your foster parent. Some people just take that and say, all right, that's my mother, that's my father, yada yada yada. Surrogate mother, father. Y'all get the idea. So very few people get lucky and then be able to have a maturity process to go through that allows them to grow psychologically into a mature, strong adult that is fully self-sufficient. Because remember, like I said in my maturity video, in a lot of my other previous videos, that maturity is a psychological state of being, much more than material possessions. This American society in particular convinces people that material possessions and certain actions qualifies them, a person, as a mature adult. For example, it programs people to think that because a person has a car, their own place of living, money, and even children, that considers them as an adult, a mature adult. No, a person can be a mature adult at 16 psychologically, much more than a person who is 60 years of age, who has all of these so-called adult things like a car, a house, money, children, grown-up children, or anything like that. And this all comes from my years of studying, observing, and really investigating relationships. And then that led me off to studying the mind, studying emotions, and studying a variety of uh, spiritual stuff, and overall studying myself. And now I see what's going on with a lot of people. And I've learned that maturity is a psychological state of being, a psychological refinement level, much more than material possessions. Material possessions is an aspect of maturity, but it doesn't qualify a person fully as a mature individual. So then as a baby, you got to deal with and as a young person, you got to deal with your fucking family. And that's part of the human trap. And that's the family trap. So you got that as part of the control to control you as a soul, which is supposedly, and that is actually a trap in a variety of reasons. Because if your family, like I said in my family trap video, if your family is not focused on raising you up into a mature adult and raising you up spiritually, and if that is not their goal, and if that's not what they have been doing, then it is a high chance that that is the trap that you are in. In particular, I'm speaking to those who are spiritually conscious and who enjoy speaking about higher spiritual information and learning higher spiritual information, and want to do more spiritual things rather than the low, mundane human things that most people are programmed to stay stuck on and attached to. That includes worrying about buying a car, being rich, gaining wealth, and just overall gaining material possessions much more than rising spiritually. If your family is like that, but you are on a higher spiritual level and you want to do more spiritual things, then you are in a family trap. And the longer you stay around your family, the more they're going to keep you in that trap and get you down even deeper. And then when you start speaking that spiritual stuff, then that's when they go crazy. They either want to fight you, argue with you, or castrate you and ostracize you. And I've already been through that in my past. So that's why I limit my exposure to my own family, because the majority of them are spiritually unconscious and they're not trying to get out of their lower human consciousness. So with you, the spiritually conscious people, you have to limit your exposure to your family and other spiritually unconscious people. And that's the majority of people in this world. Is a small group of us that have awakened and are awakening till this day. And there are more and more coming to this awakening, and that's a good thing. But you still have to be conscious of who you are associating with, because the more you associate with people who are spiritually unconscious, the more they're going to try to drag you back in there. So that's why for me, I rather be alone. I'm double check this. Make sure this shit is still recorded. Okay. That's why I'd rather be alone with no friends than to be with people to allow myself to associate with people who are spiritually unconscious and who are still on a low human consciousness level. However, it depends, because I always focus on gauging a person before I actually go ahead and start speaking to them about higher spiritual stuff, because sometimes I'm higher spiritual material, because sometimes certain things that you can say to an individual that will waken them up. But the spirit would always let you know, like, look, this is the person that you can go ahead and speak with. They need your information, so speak to them. And that's why certain people are drawn to my videos when I'm speaking about the spiritual stuff, because those are the people that need to hear my information. Just like with this video here. That's why you're drawn to this video. You saw the title and it was like, okay, let me see what this is about. Boom. So that's the family trap. Go look at that, my previous family trap video, if you want more information about that. So then you have the trap of the schooling all the way from pre-K all the way up to college. That is a trap also, because it indoctrinates. It's dogma. It indoctrinates you to become a psychological slave for society, another drone. Schooling does not lift you up spiritually, and especially the so-called universities that don't do anything, that don't teach you anything about the universe to help raise you up. Because if you think about it, if the society's goal is to control you for their advantage much more than yourself, then why would they teach you things to help raise you up and they lose control over you? So their goal is to program you so that by the time you get out of school, you're a drone, a full-on drone. You're not thinking on your own. You have to think on the system, and you're running on societal programs because of their social engineering. Go look up social engineering on YouTube and Google, and go check it out in the books. The social engineering starts from the time you are born as a baby. And especially your parents put you in front of that fucking TV, and all of those subliminals go into your mind all the way. And you're even more susceptible from the age of when you're a baby all the way up to 7 years of age. You're highly fertile to accept those programmings from the TV and the people and places and things around you. And most parents don't realize this, and they don't. That's why they just go ahead and put their child in front of the TV. For me, if I had my own children, which I don't, because the spirit told me early on in my teenage years to avoid having children. And I see why. I won't go into details for now, but I see why, and I'm happy. But anyways, if I had my own children, between those first 7 years, I would avoid allowing them to watch TV. And in fact, I still probably wouldn't have any kind of cable or any kind of TV reception coming into my home, as I avoid having it in my home right now. And that reception itself, that signal, puts people on a low human level, and it doesn't allow them to think on high spiritual levels, because that reception, that signal, and any signal that's coming from the outside going into your home, it fucks with your brain waves, and it keeps you from having those higher spiritual epiphanies. And for me, that's why in my room, I don't have any electricity going on in my room, and all TVs or anything electronic is outside of my room. The only thing that I have is my phones, and I use my phone, of course, in case somebody wants to contact me, but I utilize it also to listen to lectures, and in particular, Bobby Hemmett lectures. I listen to a lot of his stuff. And spiritually, I'm attracted to him much more than any other spiritual lecturer. I like his stuff, and I just stay loaded with his audios, and I just sit there and I just study it, just keep studying it and learning as much as I can, so that I can know what I need to do, and also get confirmations from my own intuition. But anyway, so the schooling is a trap too. So you got that. So what's the other thing? Then once you become an adult, which this whole thing, the whole system is designed to also delay a person's maturity overall. That's why a lot of people, when you see them, they don't mature until they either get married, or years later when they're like 50 or 60 years of age. And you see them old men and old ladies, they mature later, way later in life. And that's the plan of society, because when a person is still immature, they're a lot more easier to control, much more than the mature individual who is self-sustaining and has that independent thinking. Because you can still be mature, but you're still under the society control psychologically, those psychological beliefs. That's where personal development comes into play, because you can do self-reflection, self-analysis, and self-development. That's what I have been doing for years, and that allows me to have my own independent thinking. And you can tell that I have my own independent thinking based on the information that I dispense within my YouTube videos. Because if I was still under the major society programs, I wouldn't even be able to perceive this information and even want to give it out. So I definitely have an independent mind now, and I sit and think about a lot of stuff. And that's because I did my self-reflection and self-analysis and allowed myself to release self-denial, because self-denial is part of the ego, because the ego wants to stay connected to this physical realm because it was created in this physical realm, and it doesn't want to deal with higher spiritual material, and it doesn't want to evolve to higher levels unless it has to do with the physical realm only, like getting money, obtaining material possessions, and other mundane human stuff. So that it'll create that self-denial block, and we won't allow the person to perceive higher spiritual stuff and not even want to evolve to a higher spiritual level, because it knows that once it evolves to a higher spiritual level, you do that, then the ego will dissolve. So you have to battle with your ego after you learn what it is and how it functions. And it's very, very tricky, because it'll come in at sneaky times very, very sneaky times. But you have to bypass that, move that out of the way for your spiritual self to come through and be able to perceive higher spiritual information. It's some self-development work that has to go into play. You got to do that. So because the parents haven't matured themselves, they aren't able to provide a maturity process to their child that allows the child to go through a rites of passage, so to speak, that allows the child to develop psychologically into a mature adult. That's why these people nowadays for years have not been on mature levels. So they go through relationships angry, arguing over dumb stuff, something that somebody said, and they weren't able to let it go and get over it and move forward and work it out. And then something that somebody did unintentionally, then they get angry, pout like a little child, and either want to fight the individual or just go into this crazy arguments. It's really ridiculous. So going through a maturity process, it really, really helps. And I went through my maturity process unconsciously, really. It's just once I woke up spiritually, the spirit was just guiding me. And I didn't really realize that I was being guided. I thought it was just me doing it. It just happened naturally. But now I can sit down and figure out a constructive process and put it together and help people out and say, look, this is what you got to do. I haven't really sat down and thought about it, but I think it's about that time. I got to sit down and figure out some kind of course or something. I've been talking about it for a while, so I got to get to that because some people a lot of people really, really need that because they're not getting it anywhere else from anybody else. Okay, then another thing, part of the human trap is religion. And a lot of the spiritually conscious people, you know what I'm talking about, that religion is a real trap. It's a real, real trap. And religion does not have anything to do with spirituality. What world societies want you to believe is that it has something to do with spirituality. But religion is a ceremony, political environment that keeps people trapped on a low human level, thinking that they have to worship something that's outside of themselves, much more than focusing on themselves, which their spiritual self is connected to the higher divine creator, the real creator, the great mother creator, much more than the creator that created the physical realm. Because there's a difference, and most people don't know this, that we have the great mother, which we are a part of as soul beings. Well, those of us who are souls, because there's some beings on here that are soulless, and those are the beings that's creating chaos and destroying this planet and controlling other people, and that are in control of these governments. Those are the soulless beings. Um, and then you have the creator who created this physical realm. That creator is a lower subordinate being. Us souls, we are much more powerful than that being. But because he created this physical realm, he wanted us to worship him. So he created these religions. And he is the one that people worship. And that being, from what I heard, is either no longer exists or he's fading out. And last I heard, there's nobody up there. So it's literally just us. We are the gods, soul beings. So for me, once I got out of religion, I just trained myself to stop praying to a God, which was Jehovah, when I was in the religion back then, because I was raised in that religion. But I got out of that. My spirit said, no, you got to get out of this shit. This shit is not working. This is not us. So I finally built up the confidence to walk out on my own. And it took me about a year, maybe a little bit longer, to actually stop worrying about the religious stuff and to stop praying to this so-called Jehovah. And then many years later, I realized that, hey, I'm the powerful one. So now I've just been focusing more on my inner abilities, my inner powers, and focusing on myself and learning more about myself and my spiritual self. And that's why whenever I need guidance, I just tap into that and get guidance that way. So religion is another motherfucking trap too. And you gotta really pay attention to this and analyze it for yourself, because your spiritual self, for a lot of people, it speaks to them in a variety of ways, and especially feelings in certain situations when they're dealing with different religious events, people, and situations. But a lot of people, they ignore it because they're scared. And there's a lot of people who are stuck in religion because they're too scared to get out of it, and that religion provides them comfort. And that's how it was for me too. But I just couldn't deal with the feeling that my spirit was telling me to get out. It was just a sickening feeling to my stomach. That's another reason how I know I really need to stop doing something, is when I start to get sick to my stomach. And then when my energy is not on the usual high level, every time I deal with it, the it or a person or get into a certain environment, when I start feeling like that, that's when I know, like, and then like a nausea type feeling, that's when I know, okay, I got to stop fucking with this. And that's how it was for me with religion and with working at these places of employment. So then once I stop, that's when my energy goes back up to a very high level, and that's when I start perceiving more higher spiritual stuff. That's what lets me know, like, look, it's time to leave. So for you religious people, you gotta find the time to really analyze what's going on around you in this religious stuff. And that feeling that the religion is not right for you in general, you gotta follow that feeling and listen to your spirit. But that's a lot of inner work. Well, now maybe not a lot, but that's inner work that you have to do for yourself and come to your own conclusion. So I let you deal with that. So you got religion. What's the other thing? Those are the major influences in this human trap that keeps you on a lower level, especially with your ego. Your ego is a implant that gets created within yourself as a human that keeps you on a low beastly like level of this physical realm, which it is useful to a certain extent to help you get through this physical realm and be a human, to do your human things. But however, you have to learn how to bypass it and follow your spiritual self and listen to your spiritual self and do what you have to do spiritually. Because if you get too caught up in this physical realm, then that's when you'll get fucked up on a variety in a variety of ways. In a variety of ways. And I've learned that every time I listen to the spirit, when it says, look, you gotta do this, and this, avoid doing this, everything works out great for me. Even the small, short, mundane things, just like earlier today, told me don't go to the movies, which I wanted to see that new movie Split. I'm definitely going to still see it. It told me don't go see it today, go see it on Saturday. So I didn't listen to it, but once I was in the mall, that's when I sat there and I felt the energy. The energy wasn't there. I was like, okay, yeah, now it's time to go home. Don't go see the movie. So I walked all the way back home, and then I just felt better. So even small stuff like that. But the major things in life, my major decisions, I tap in spiritually and ask the spirit, like, look, this is what's going on. You already know it. So what's the best thing for me to do? It comes through and just gives me the information. And I can tell the difference, majority of the time at least, when the information comes through on what I need to do. I love that. So overall, those are the top major things that keeps people trapped into this human trap. From being a higher spiritual being and thinking, and also this human trap, it makes you think that this is the end all be all of this world. And religion does that too. Religion makes you think that you're going to be going to hell if you doing certain immoral things. And spirituality and religion, they are two separate things. And there's some things that have certain information in religion that does correlate with spirituality. However, the religions themselves, they don't emphasize those things majority of the time because they want to keep their system of control. So that's when you got to do your own analyzing and come to your own conclusions with that too. Let's see, what else? Is there anything else? Nope. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap that up, and then if necessary, I'll go ahead and do a human trap 2 to go into further details of something, whatever I feel like it's that. But those are the things that I want you to contemplate on, really sit down and think about. And that's information that you can verify for yourself. And that's what I do the majority of the time when I'm speaking information, when I'm giving out information on my YouTube channel and anywhere else. I like to give out information that is verifiable by the individual themselves after I have done my own exploration, examination, and analysis on my own. Then I'll go ahead, analyze it, figure out how to give it out to the people, how to explain it to people. So this video right here is another example of that. So you can go ahead and do your own studying and investigating all of this for yourself. All right, till next time. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope this information is helpful in any way, shape, or form. Go ahead, like, comment, and definitely share and subscribe. And yes, until next time, peace out.